These are stories of people who fight inner battles.
It's sort of a humorous chronicle of a person who is severely depressed.
Take one step and I'll jam this in my aorta.
Because they act strangely, we call them crazy.
People seem to continue to interpret those people that are honest and real and uncensored as insane.
Pleasantly surprised. You're not like the other murderers.
And when they cross the line, there's no turning back.
It was her idea to lick my face.
Yeah, it's nuts, but it's hysterical.
Inner Battles, on this episode of Books into Film.
Come on, hit me before I lose my nerve. Ow! You hit me in the ear!
Characters who face inner battles see the world in a different way.
People with inner battles make such good stories because they have such a skewed perception of reality in the world, and that, of course, is very entertaining.
They are experiencing extreme mental states of mind, and good films and good novels want readers and viewers to have altered states of mind as they experience the art.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
You'd have to be crazy to start a fight club.
Can I be next?
In order to participate in that type of event, you'd have to have very much of a sense of callousness and lack of empathy for the person who you're fighting.
A fight club is basically a group of men that get together, fight bare-fisted, and beat each other to a pulp. To free themselves of societal pressures and slavery.
A lot of men would be attracted to Fight Club in that there's male fraternizing, there's bonding, there's male connection. You're with other people who are struggling in similar ways and sharing similar issues.
Fight Club is a story about an unnamed man who is fed up with his white-collar life.
It's sort of a humorous chronicle of a person who is severely depressed. He goes to different terminal illness support groups and pretends to be sick so that he can cry with the people who are crying when they're having sort of group hugs and doing, partner sharing.
The person who sends Ed Norton's character to experience support groups, in particular a testicular cancer support group, is a doctor. A doctor that Ed Norton's character has gone to saying, come on, give me something so I can sleep a little better. The doctor whirls on him and says, you're not in pain. If you want to experience pain, go see what some people have to deal with in these support groups.
Chuck Palahniuk wrote the book Fight Club in 1997 to work out some issues of his own.
Writing the story has to keep me fully involved, and I would really rather do anything in the world other than write. I hate writing. And so the writing itself has to be very, very intense.
Chuck Palahniuk got the idea for Fight Club from a couple different sources. He attended AA meetings where he said that people delivered just the best stories he's ever heard. As well, he was a volunteer for a hospice for the terminally ill, and he would basically just drive them to their support group meetings and sit back and listen.
Whether or not people like the stories is sort of beside the point. I just want to write something that people just cannot forget.
Palahniuk has some very, very strong views about the destructive impact of consumerism on society. I think he sees consumerism as leading to the downfall of our society.
3 days after he finished writing Fight Club, Palahniuk had a publishing deal. A month later, his book was optioned for film.
It had never occurred to me that it would ever be made into a movie.
Director David Fincher took a fearless approach.
I don't think you can think in terms of what's the audience out there for this. I think you have to kind of go, is this a movie I would want to see? Is this a movie I would wait in line for?
Oh God, why are you doing this?
It's cheaper than a movie and there's free coffee.
Helena Bonham Carter plays the suicidal love interest, Marla.
It was a sort of leap of the imagination, which is what acting anyway is. And I had the book and I had the script. And I had Fincher, who is sort of a remarkably responsible director, who does more thinking about the character. He's one of the few directors I work with who knew my character better than me. In fact, I think he wanted to play Marla.
When Edward Norton's character discovers that she's also infiltrated these different groups, he no longer is able to sleep. Something about her attending has taken some of the energy away from the group, and in fact, they then go through this process of negotiating where Marla will attend some groups and he'll attend others.
I think secretly he's sort of attracted to her for being so dark and twisted like him, but instead of just liking her or asking her out or something, he decides that another faker ruins it for him.
There wasn't a huge amount that I could draw on from my real life experience to play Marla, thank God.
First rule is, I'm not supposed to talk about it. And the second rule is, I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Meatloaf plays Bob, a cancer survivor who eventually joins the Fight Club.
He basically just craves to be part of something, and Edward Norton's character allows that to happen.
David says to me, we have to make him a very sympathetic character. And I said, okay. Now, there is not a lot of time in the script to make him that. It's not a lot of screen time to make him sympathetic. And I think we did it, and with David's help.
Soap. I make and I sell soap.
Norton's character meets the magnetic Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt.
This is crazy. You want me to hit you?
That's right.
What, like in the face?
Surprise me.
His job is basically just to point out how enslaved Edward Norton is to things, to material possessions, basically to his life.
They do what men have been doing for thousands of years. They get together, they talk about how crappy their world is, they get drunk, and they fight.
Hit me again.
No, you hit me.
To make their fight scenes real, Pitt and Norton trained in boxing, taekwondo, and grappling.
We were trying to do fight sequences in this that were much longer in terms of single shots, so that in one shot without a cut, you would actually see, two guys really going at it.
It's one of the aspects, almost the perks of what we do. We get to work out a lot of our demons in a way,
The experience of these things is not like sort of your average, normal grounded movie. It operates kind of in its own zone.
Tell you are by far the most interesting single-serving friend I've ever met.
Fight Club raises complicated issues without offering easy answers.
Fight Club is an extreme movie about people resisting their fates. And in a consumerist society, one's fate is to wake up living in a catalog. And Ed Norton's character has been living in an IKEA catalog, and he realizes that he can't live authentically, cannot live genuinely in a world where people move into prefabricated identities. The solution? Blow it up, get rid of it.
You're provoking a discussion and then engaging in a discussion of the things that are complicated and not easy to sum up, and there's no easy conclusion to the film.
In the end, you will thank me.
Whoa! Whoa!
When we return, an inner battle lands a young woman in an institution.
I learned that, even the doctors don't have the answers. I'm ambivalent. In fact, that's my new favorite word.
Do you know what that means, ambivalence?
I don't care.
Girl Interrupted is the story of Susanna Kaysen, who was sent to a mental institution in 1967.
It's not just a group of crazy girls. It's really, each person has a very specific thing that happened to them.
Susanna checks herself into the hospital at the recommendation of her psychiatrist. What the psychiatrist had told her was that he thought that it was really important for her to have a long rest, like a very real rest, the kind of rest that she couldn't get at home.
What Suzanne realizes when she checks herself in is that she's diagnosed with a personality disorder that she didn't know that she had, as well as that she can't really check herself out.
Author Susanna Kaysen based Girl Interrupted on her own experience in a mental institution.
You were locked in. You couldn't open your window. You might be heavily medicated. I wasn't, but many people were. And the truth was you had absolutely no personal freedom.
What strikes me about Susanna Kaysen's book is the very tender humanity of her recollections, her perceptions, her impressions, her thoughts.
Borderline personality disorder. compulsive activities that are self-damaging, such as casual sex.
I certainly know I wouldn't have been hospitalized in 1978 or 88.
When we consider someone crazy, I think we consider them crazy because they don't play by our rules.
Our ideas about mental health issues and mental illness and the treatment of these types of problems is very different now than it was in the 60s.
Girl Interrupted became a bestseller in 1993. 6 years later, it was turned into a film.
I have a borderline personality.
Well, that's nothing. What else?
Winona Ryder was drawn to the character of Susanna.
Winona Ryder feels a connection with novelist Susanna Kaysen because both women have experienced battles with inner demons.
At 19, I was having some tough times, and I was exhausted, and so I was able to afford to check myself into a place for exhaustion, but it was for exhaustion, but it was a psychiatric ward.
I think that it brought up a lot of feelings and a lot of memories for her.
In Girl Interrupted, Ryder's character takes comfort in the hospital and is afraid to leave.
It's funny, I mean, the hospital had it had this boarding school lull around, almost like a medium-level hotel atmosphere in which you didn't really have to do anything.
The only thing I tried to do was have an atmosphere where there was love and understanding and where there was a sense of friendship among us all.
Whipped cream, cherries, and
nuts.
Angelina Jolie plays Lisa, a rebellious character who plays mind games with Susanna.
People seem to continue to interpret those people that are honest and real and uncensored as insane.
I think that on one side, Angie has many of the traits of Lisa. Angie's intense, rebellious, outspoken, sexy, dangerous. I mean, not physically dangerous, but she projects power.
When talking about her Oscar-winning performance, Angelina Jolie mentioned that she essentially became the character and basically said, how can you not when you delve that deep into the psyche?
I just play what I think is real, insane, and people tend to keep thinking that's insane. I don't know why.
Working with her was amazing. And she just sort of came in with such force and so aggressive. And it was terrifying.
Where's Jamie?
I never encouraged the young women in the movie to kind of read up on symptoms and to play an illness because I thought it would be, for me, a big mistake. I've never met a person, even in an institution, who was merely a set of symptoms. You play the person.
Lisa can be mean. She is brutally honest with the girls on her ward.
There's this scene where Lisa, who's been termed a sociopath, gets into this altercation with Daisy, and she treats Daisy in the most callous, horrible, psychologically destructive manner. She treats her in a way that you could see a psychopath or a sociopath treating someone else.
She can't tolerate them trying to mix it up and try to figure out who they are.
Girl Interrupted puts a fragile human face on the issue of mental illness.
I think the movie is relevant in that it very effectively portrays individuals with mental illness as real people.
I think that's part of why both Susanna and Lisa are really likable people in the film, is that they're real people.
I learned that, even the doctors don't have the answers, They can't give you the cliff notes to happiness.
We're all trying to figure things out. We all don't know sometimes who we are. It's not we're in denial.
Girl Interrupted makes us question the definition of insanity.
The judgment of another human being when you say somebody's mentally ill or not is an extremely subjective affair.
Anybody could end up in one of these places. You or me or anybody that we know.
When we return, a game show host who claims he killed for the CIA.
He's a complicated guy. He's a very complicated guy. My name is Charles Hirsch Barris. I have written pop songs. I have been a television producer. In addition, I have murdered 33 human beings.
It's The Gong Show.
Most people remember Chuck Barris as a game show creator and host from the 70s.
I love The Gong Show. I definitely remember The Gong Show.
I loved them. Loved all of them. Newlywed Game, Dating Game, Gong Show. When I'd come home from school, I'd watch it.
A pretty girl asks 3 handsome guys questions, and she picks one to date. That's it. That's the show.
People at home could relate to what I was doing. And as long as that's the case, I kept creating shows that people could relate to. Everybody had a mother-in-law. I did a show called How's Your Mother-in-Law? Everybody was married, or they were going to be married, or they were married. They knew what newlyweds were like. They could relate. They could identify.
Despite high ratings for Barris's game shows, critics called them trashy.
He really wanted to be respected by the public, and that had a big impact on him. How the critics really were hard on him. He took it hard.
I was the only one out there they could pick on, it seemed.
After a string of hits, Barris's TV career crashed when The Gong Show went off the air in 1980.
The real Chuck Barris tried to redeem himself by mounting a movie version of the canceled show. Unfortunately for him, the movie was just panned by critics and was a box office disaster.
Part of the reason I wrote Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, the shows just went off the air. I just did a movie and it disappeared out of New York on a weekend. And I checked into a hotel room and wrote.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind was published in 1982. In the book, Barris claims he was a CIA assassin.
When he was not starring himself on The Gong Show, he was following through on CIA orders to kill America's enemies in contract killings overseas.
He eventually decides that he doesn't want to be part of the CIA anymore. He tries to leave, but obviously the higher-ups don't let him leave, and he's forced to live his public persona as well as the secretive CIA killing machine side.
You don't play, you don't leave. You understand that?
Barris describes Confessions of a Dangerous Mind as an unauthorized autobiography. To this day, many people don't believe it's true.
Chuck Barris's main reason for calling his book an unauthorized autobiography was to portray the notion that the CIA did not authorize this and that he's giving away some secrets about his life in the CIA.
I thought it was sort of fascinating to have this guy telling a story that he that may or may not be true. That I thought, if it isn't true, how fascinating is it that someone would make that story up, especially someone as successful as he is.
Being John Malkovich's screenwriter, Charlie Kaufman, was asked to adapt the book in 1998.
Charlie stuck real tight to the book. He created a brilliant script, and when Charlie has his little flourishes, that comes with Charlie Kaufman, and I'll take him any day because he's really good.
George Clooney was attracted to the project. He had been a fan of Barris's game shows since he was a child.
His dad actually had his own talk show in Cincinnati, and his mother had her own show as well. So obviously he's got a bit of a background helping out his parents behind the scenes.
I understand what game shows were like. I grew up on those sets. I understand what the trappings of fame are like. I understand a lot of those things.
George has always been attached to, or has been for many years attached to, the Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. He always wanted to play a little part in it.
As time went on, Clooney became more involved in the project.
George Clooney initially was only supposed to have a bit part as a recruiter in this movie, but a $28 million budget and long shooting schedule saw the movie starting to fall apart, so he decided to step in and direct.
I pitched him an idea, and I pitched him a budget, and they said, you know, that they'd go with that.
George took that script and, with his little vision, made a great movie.
If you notice, Jim, I got a TV show on there. I don't need to kill people for hire anymore.
Think of it as a hobby, something you do to relax.
Clooney insisted little-known actor Sam Rockwell play the title role.
The toughest part was getting Sam, which is not, Sam, there were a lot of big stars that wanted to play the role because it's a great role. But Sam was the right actor to play the role.
I was really lucky. I mean, this big movie star seemed to think I had what it took to play the part.
Well, that was George's idea. He wanted Sam. I wasn't that thrilled about Sam. I didn't know about him. I can't imagine the picture without Sam. I mean, his performance just blew me away.
Rockwell shadowed Barris for months to get inside his troubled mind.
He's a really shy, kind of sweet guy, you know. He's a lot of things. He's a complicated guy.
I'm a hippie now.
Drew Barrymore was determined to play Barris's innocent girlfriend, Penny.
I read this one and I was like, oh my God, there's a part that I could play in this. I have to play in this. And it was just, you know, since then I've been begging every incarnation of this film, can I please play Penny?
She lights up a room. You know, she walks in the room, she makes you smile. She comes to work, she's lovely, and she's also just a stunning actress.
I was honored that he asked me because I was like running in front of a bus to get this job. I just really wanted to play this character very much and to work with him and to be a part of this with Sam and Charlie Kaufman.
Pleasantly surprised. You're not like the other murderers.
Julia Roberts plays femme fatale Patricia, who works with Barris in his secret life as a spy.
Julia Roberts performs an interesting maneuver in Confessions of a Dangerous Mind when she's in a love scene with Chuck Barris because, well, what she does basically is she licks his face voraciously. Why does she do it? She's an animal.
It was her idea to lick my face.
She said, how about if I lick his face? And I was like, really? And she goes, yeah. And I go, okay. Yeah, it's nuts, but it's hysterical.
She just thought that that was a good thing for her character to do, to take the reins, so to speak, you know?
Game show host Chuck Barris is the perfect pop culture example of a man with inner battles.
Anyone who thinks that they've killed 33 people, whether it's true or not, is obviously going through something.
He did have a breakdown. He was one of, in a long line that continues today, of celebrities who could not handle the spotlight.
Certainly, Chuck Barris was a loose cannon, was driven to do what he could to find fame, but does that mean he was mentally ill? Certainly not necessarily.
Chuck Barris would love it if we thought he was a real head case and was half mad for believing he was a CIA spy.
He's a complicated guy. He's a very complicated guy.
People with inner battles walk a dangerous line between fantasy and reality.
It's like when you have a really long, epic dream that's both hilarious and terrifying.
They're unhappy people, you know? They tend to exhibit real highs and lows.
Their skewed perception of things also lets us see how close we can come to the edge.
These stories of people on the edge are extraordinarily exciting narratives because there's so much to be lost, namely one's mind.
It's The Gong Show.